Keon King's lawyer speaks out again in a new interview, and this one's interesting.
P-A-S-C-A-L. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal.
What's up? We're back at it again with another conversation about Kada Scott, and there's so many questions that still have not been answered. One, what actually happened to Kada Scott? We know that she had a GSW to her head, but at the same time, what actually happened? What were the events that led to her demise, right? Was there another person in that car with Keon King when he pulled up to her job's parking lot and picked her up? Did he force her in the car? Did he not force her in the car? Like I said, what are the other players involved in this whole tragic situation? What's the correspondence like between Kada Scott and Keon King? What's this whole kidnap me again thing, right? I think that's one thing that we're all trying to wonder. What's going on here? Was there something romantic going on between them? Was it just him having some strange, disturbing, and deadly obsession with Kada Scott? Did he try to step to her and she turned him down? There's so many possibilities going on in this situation. And then, of course, the other thing is where are the other suspects? Why haven't they been detained and thrown in the slammer as quickly as possible? But one thing is for sure, the public is really reacting to having a very visceral reaction to the fact that Keon King has representation. Yes, y'all, the world, the streets have lost their minds over the fact that Keon King has a paid lawyer. No. This guy's not pro bono, baby. He's getting paid. He is on Keon King's family retainer, and he is representing Keon King. In fact, in this interview that we're going to see, a brand new interview that just dropped about an hour or two ago, he talks about how, yes, he's been paid. He's being paid for by his Keon King's family, but also he is the one who he orchestrated the surrendering of Keon King. We now hear that information as well. In a way, it's almost like he takes pride in that information. And I mean, let's be real. Again, this whole situation could have gone a series of different ways. Okay, this could have been a very traumatic way, a deadly end, etc. for Keon King. Let's be real. We don't need more deaths. We just need justice here. And I think that's one of the things that people are very upset about. The fact that he is actually paid, that he is on the retainer of the family, that they are worried that he's not going to get bad representation, that he's actually going to get good representation. And I have to say this again, guys, okay? First off, he has the right, as any other American citizen, to be represented by any lawyer. Now, the fact that Shaka Johnson is on retainer, like he's getting paid by the family, yes, instantly you think, oh, he's going to get off some sort of way, or he's going to get a lighter sentence or something of that sort. But that's not entirely true. We have not even walked in to a courtroom for this specific trial. The trial has not started yet for Keon King, so we can't predict that yet. But I get it. I fully get it. People are mad about him being not pro bono because they think that, oh, it's a pro bono lawyer. The lawyer's just going to, do his best. Right? And I get it. In your mind, that's what you're thinking. He's going to do his best, but he's still going to get hit. He's still going to get the whole library thrown at him, not just the book, the whole library thrown at him. And I get that. I get the want of justice served very cold, right? For the likes of a monster like Keon King. But here's the thing. He has constitutional rights. Whether we like to admit that or not, he does. And if Shaka Johnson wants to represent him, so be it, right? So be it. I know that angers some people. But unfortunately, that's just how the justice system works. Now we just got to see how things go. But nonetheless, in this interview, which I found to be, this is interesting. This interview is very interesting. There's a lot of information in here that just sparked up a lot of questions for me. And it was just very strange. And we have got to take a look at this. This is just an odd, not a super odd interview, but it is an interview nonetheless that just shows you and gives us more insight on what actually happened before he even got arrested, or before he turned himself in, that is. Let's just take a listen to this. This is interesting.
All right. It is 7:32. Well, the family of Kada Scott is asking for attorney Shaka Johnson to withdraw from representing Keon King.
And you know that name because the 21-year-old faces numerous charges in the death of Kada Scott, including murder, kidnapping, conspiracy, abuse of corpse, and tampering with evidence.
And now, I want to say this really quick before we go into Shaka Johnson's interview. I think it's fair to say that we already know what's going to happen here. Either Keon King, this monster, is either going to plead not guilty, which I think this is where we're going. This is the route that we're going down. And then they're going to fight it out and duke it out in court. Or Shaka Johnson is going to do his best to try to get him to take a plea deal. Possibly. Which means semi-lighter sentence and all that stuff. But nonetheless, given the fact that he is a repeat offender, no matter what, he's still going to get hit hard with justice. That's just what I'm going to say. Now, I get it. It's a large pill to swallow, okay, for a lot of people, because people just want a swift open and shut case, especially with the likes of this guy right here. But at the same time, he has the right to have good representation, whether we like to hear that or not. Again, I want him to go down bad, but I also want him to confess, and I also want him to bring the other people that were involved in either taking the life of Kada, or involved in moving her body and burying her body, be brought to justice as well. So hopefully this Shaka Johnson is going to do everything he can the right way, but you never know. Lawyers be lawyering out here in these streets. You feel me?
In a Change.org petition, the Scott family says, in part, quote, Philadelphia attorney Shaka Johnson has chosen to represent Keon King in this deeply painful and high-profile case. While every person has the right to legal representation, this comes a point where morality must outweigh professional ambition. So with those comments, we wanted to get the comment from Shaka Johnson himself. Thank you for...
He showed up with sunglasses on. He showed up with the shades on, y'all. Okay. You know for a fact it's probably gloomy out there. You feel me? Don't we have a hurricane, like doing an overcast on everything right now? So why you got shades on in the studio, baby? You had plenty of time to say, all right, I'm done. Okay, I'm done.
Coming in.
Thank you.
Who approached you to take the case in the first place?
His parents.
Keon King's parents?
Yes, his parents.
Now, are you the one that convinced him to turn himself in?
I walked in with him. Yes, I turned him in. And that was before he was formally charged with anything having to do with her disappearance, her kidnapping, the arson, the murder subsequently. That was before any of that.
Wait. See, hold up. I'm sorry. But make that make sense. He said they turned him in. He turned himself in, surrendered before any news about Kada being missing or her unaliving or anything of that sort. That doesn't make any sense. You realize that doesn't make any sense, right? That makes no sense. Because during that time, everybody and their mama was saying, where is Kada? The news was running rampant about looking for Kada. She had been missing for days by that point before he turned himself. So why would he turn himself in the first doggone place? You feel me? That doesn't make any sense, y'all.
You were already representing him officially at that point?
On the strangulation case that you've now heard about, that they're calling the first one,
Right.
The district attorney contacted me directly. That's why these remarks are so, quite frankly, nonsensical. Because the district attorney contacted me, said, listen, I understand you're representing Keon King on this first strangulation. No doubt there may be some other charges coming down the pipe, but would you surrender him? Consulted with my client, consulted with his parents. We decided to do that. Had no idea that this had any relationship to Kada Scott or this sort of case of this magnitude.
Hold on. We got to run that back. Hold up. Do you understand That doesn't make any sense. Hold up.
I understand you're representing Keon King on this first strangulation. No doubt there may be some other charges coming down the pipe, or would you surrender him?
So wait a second. They said you're representing him in regards to these, these putting his paws on somebody, okay? Charges, do you mind bringing him in? Does he mind and there may be some other charges coming. Do you mind having him surrender? So then if he was surrendering just for that, this doesn't make any sense, y'all. This does not make any sense. I don't know. I don't believe that. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so he turned himself in solely because of a previous charge, and that's it. And then they said that there are other charges coming. This lawyer didn't bother to ask what other charges. What about? Before he decided to say, hey, let me convince Keon King into surrendering. Like I said, make that make sense, y'all. That does not make sense to me, y'all.
Consulted with my client, consulted with his parents. We decided to do that. Had no idea that this had any relationship to Kada Scott or this sort of case of this magnitude.
See, and I hope the reporters asked the right questions here in a second, but here it is. That doesn't make any sense. How would he not know? Because they're saying that he turned himself in connection to Kada Scott. At least that's what the police are saying. At least that's what they said in that press conference. They're saying they got the culprit. They got the guy. So that doesn't make any sense, y'all. That's weird.
Prosecutor represented it. So did they, when they saw the news coverage, did they think their son did it?
No. They came to me long before they knew their son was ever involved. His name was even swept up in this whole case. They had no idea. No idea. They thought that their son was in very little trouble. Very little trouble.
Very little. Okay, putting your paws on somebody is not very little trouble. Taking somebody against their will while your 2-year-old is in the back seat type of stuff, that's not very little. That's not very little trouble. That's a lot of trouble. Okay? That's very, 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 very big trouble.
Why turn himself in?
Well, because they're law-abiding folks. The parents are salt of the earth people. If their son is being sought after, they want to hire an attorney. Please get to the bottom of it. See why the authorities
exactly. So that's where they wanted to
see
comply.
why my son is being sought after, and let's investigate it. That's exactly what it is. They had no idea he was associated with this. We obviously came to find that out, and at that point, I was already his attorney.
And
wow,
because of the strangulation case, why was he out?
The case was withdrawn. That strangulation.
Because the victim didn't show up in court?
Because the victim did not show up in court.
Why don't they just do it by Zoom?
Well, no. You have the right. We have constitutional protections, and people have to come to court. You can't wage allegations against a person and then get on the computer. You got to come down, participate in the process that you began.
But aren't there some cases where even, for example, like domestic violence, or the situations where even if the victim isn't able to come forward, that they're still able to prosecute, or is that just a different scenario?
No, it's a slightly different scenario.
Okay.
But in this particular case, she was given the opportunity to come to court twice. She didn't come to court, and so the case was withdrawn. As happens, let me be clear, this is not something that is highly irregular. It'll happen probably 50 times today. It happens every day. When I say every day, not once or twice.
Where victims are not,
where cases are withdrawn or discharged, or the government voluntarily withdraws the charges because the so-called victim or the complainant is not there.
Now, here's the thing, though. When it comes to, of course, I'm not a lawyer, but, just reacting, just my knee-jerk reaction to this is, well, then if that is the case, then wouldn't the state, or wouldn't the courts have enough evidence to keep that person or to continue with that charge against that particular person? If they have enough evidence to show that he did put his paws on this person, he did this, that, and the third, can they not seek criminal charges on him for doing said thing? It is kind of wild to me that they're able to just walk out the door just because a victim is scared to step forward, which is totally understandable. I'm not here knocking that. It's totally understandable when people are too scared to step forward because the monster may know where they live. In this case, he knew exactly where that woman lived. You see what I'm saying? So I get it, the concern for not going further. But it does make you wonder, why didn't the courts continue pushing that charge on him regardless of that if they had enough evidence. But like I said, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just asking the questions. And I'm sure these are the same questions that a lot of people are asking because they think that this guy should have, and I believe the same, that this guy should have been locked up a long ass time ago.
If nobody agrees to defend him as an attorney, is that when they appoint a public defender?
Well, I don't know that many people would not agree to defend him. We represent, when I say we, I'm speaking about the criminal defense bar. We represent people from all walks of life who are accused of all manner of heinous crimes, okay? And
I remember didn't you represent a Proud Boy at one time?
Yes, I did. Yes,
That's
I did.
crazy.
I represented Zachary Real, or one of the leader of the
case.
Proud Boys.
Did you have any folks from the community upset when you were
No.
representing him?
I got no emails. I got no social media, whatever. I got none of that. And I'm talking about, and he was obviously not the most high-profile person. Of course, you remember when I went and got Maurice Hill from that police barricade standoff for 8 hours. This is what I do. This is what I do.
what
at
do
a
you-
high
And
level.
how long have you been doing this?
Almost 20 years.
So is this the first time then that you've seen, because there's a petition that's also been put out that has about 2,000 signatures of people asking for you to withdraw from representing Keon King. Here is the about 2,500 petition people have been posting. Have you ever had reaction like this from the community for representing someone or different?
No, I never. And quite frankly, I'm not sure if it's the clickbait. Like, I'm not sure why this particular case, like why this one case, because you cover news, you cover violent crimes. There are people getting killed on a daily basis in this community. Now, I'm not talking about worldwide. In our city of Philadelphia, there are men and women and boys and girls murdered daily. They all have lawyers. So I'm not sure why this particular case.
Maybe it's all because everybody involved in the case is black.
Well, we're in Philadelphia. Out of the 1.6 million people in this town, most of the crimes in that criminal justice center are perpetrated against black people by black people.
Well,
I think it's a lot more than just the fact that, it's black on black crime, right? I think it's the fact that this is a young, affluent particular woman that was, able to do a whole lot with her life. Seemed like she had a lot of great things going for herself. And then she up and just disappeared out of nowhere. You see what I'm saying? I think it's more than just that, it's just black on black crime or, blah, blah, blah. I think it's the fact that this case became a high profile case because the world became very fixated on where this young woman went, the way she disappeared. How she disappeared was mysterious. How she was found, all the things revolving around her disappearance and how she was found, and the fact that she lost her life, and the fact that this guy has a laundry list of charges and is a repeat offender, and the fact that this guy should have been locked up a long time ago. All of those things start to add up. All of those things start to become a huge problem. That's it. Okay. And I think that's one of the main reasons why this was a big case. The other thing, when he was representing the Proud Boy, let's be real, not a huge name in the Proud Boy, Proud Boy world. Okay. Or not a huge name in the conversation. Also, you got to also remember there were hundreds, if not thousands of people that were getting in trouble for the J6 situation as well. So his name probably got thrown in the back. Not saying that it's not a high profile case, but there were a lot of people getting charged for that thing. This situation with Keon King could have been prevented if the justice system did their thing. And that's the main concern that people have. The fact that this guy is bringing in a good lawyer, okay? And this is not pro bono. That this lawyer is going to fight tooth and nail to try to get this guy either off or try to get him a lesser sentence so he can come back out and do this all over again and do this to somebody else's daughter? Nah. See what I'm saying? So there's a lot of people that are very upset about this because they don't want the same thing to repeat itself again. That's why. And I think instantly people are upset because this guy is a good lawyer and he's getting paid to do the job. He's not some pro bono public defender guy. Okay, that is a big deal, I think. But again, he has a right to be represented, get the representation, and it does not mean just because he's got Shaka Johnson on his side does not mean at all that he's going to walk out free. Trust and believe the courts are not going to do that. They have too much pitted against him. There is no room for reasonable doubt to say that, well, maybe he didn't do it. No, he did this, guys. He did this, and he's one of the people that is involved in the unaliving and the discarding of young Kada Scott. So again, I think everyone should calm, let him have the representation that he needs so that he can be thrown into prison as quickly as possible. Let's make this an open and shut case. That's what I think. But let's continue on.
We should mention that was brought up in the petition. If you look at what's on the website, it says, as a respected black attorney, Shaka Johnson's involvement in this case sends a chilling message to the black community that even those who claim to fight for justice are willing to defend known abusers, even those responsible for harming and killing black women.
Yes, that's really sad rhetoric, and people should be really more conscious of their words and the things they put out to the unsuspecting public, because if they were to take just one moment to get from behind the computer and come down to the courthouse, you would see that the rooms are chock full of people who are accused, people who look like me, accused of committing domestic violence against people who are against victims who look like me as well. And they have black attorneys, black private attorneys, black public defenders. I don't know that this is necessarily black versus white, honestly. I think this is more about the reputation that I've garnered as a successful attorney.
I think that's part of it. You have been very successful.
And that's definitely part of it. That is definitely part of it. People are not happy with the fact that he is actually a good lawyer. Okay, I hate to say that, but I think that they're worried that this guy's gonna get, that he's gonna get off or get something less. That should not be what should be served to this man, period, point blank. And I think we all agree on that. But at the same time, that still doesn't mean that he shouldn't have proper representation, so that they don't have to sit there and appeal for a mistrial or, try to say that he wasn't represented properly. Let him get the proper representation so that when the gavel goes down and he is found guilty on all charges and is given a hefty, robust sentence, that they can't sit there and say that they didn't give him the best representation possible. Real talk. Because for a fact, we've heard that countless times before of cases where they go, I didn't get the proper representation I wanted. I moved to, for another trial or some BS like that. I moved to appeal these charges. It happens all the time. But they brought in a good guy, so that might mean one and done, right? So let him do that thing, baby.
They think you're too successful. Answer a couple other charges. He's doing it for money.
Me? Mm-hmm. No. I could do this case for free. It wouldn't really affect my bottom line.
Okay, doing it for notoriety.
Then what do we say about, I know we don't have that sort of time and we're not here for that, but I could give you probably 15 cases that I've done in the last maybe 5 years that are of higher notoriety than this, to be honest with you, right? So that's not it. People come to your office and they consult with you, and they say, listen, Alex, at one point there was a gentleman, giving you some grief, and they had to go to court. That gentleman had an attorney, right? So people have attorneys. That is part of the constitutional protections. What few we have left, those are the constitutional protections that are still in place. Due process. You get a lawyer when you are accused of a crime, and you get a lawyer of your choosing.
Is this hurtful for you?
No, I don't operate on the frequency of social media. I'm not on that bandwidth.
Now, here's the thing. One thing is for sure. Okay, no matter how many ways he says, oh, I don't care about this, clearly it's getting his name out there. You got to remember, he's a defense lawyer. He is a defense attorney. A lot of people that he's representing are going to be guilty. A lot of them are going to be repeat offenders. A lot of them are going to be criminals, right? Or have a criminal past. So at the end of the day, him getting on TV, man, it's a perfect opportunity for people to know who he is. Perfect opportunity for all these people that have done bad things hollering at him. He's still making money. He's not a pro bono or a public defender. He's a defense attorney. He's an attorney that gets paid to defend his client, no matter what the money is, right? And I'm sure, given the fact that he just showed up with his shades on, okay, into the court, onto this TV show and onto this TV set, okay, he clearly ain't cheap. So yes, of course, this is a perfect opportunity for him to get his name out there, letting everybody have Shaka Johnson's name on their tongue. Of course. So, but at the end of the day, this is his job. This is what he does. He said almost 20 years of doing this, 2 whole decades of defending and being a lawyer to the likes of anybody who's been innocent and needed the proper defense, or who has been guilty of sin and needs the proper defense. It's still a calling card. That's still a calling card. It's still publicity for him. And he can sit here and deny all day long, and that's fine. But he knows for a fact that by him getting on these shows, by him getting on these radio shows and all these interviews, it's an opportunity for him to promote himself and his practice. Let's be real. But here it is, guys. At the end of the day, Keon King is a monster. Justice is coming for him. I know a lot of people are very upset with the idea that he's going to get good representation, which could possibly mean him getting out or getting off with a lesser charge or a lesser sentence. I say, let the courts play their cards. Let the trial do what it needs to do. It all goes down to, no matter what, if he had a public defender or a lawyer doing this all pro bono, it still is up to the courts on what the prosecution and what they're able to present to show without a shadow of a doubt that this person is a monster and he should be locked up for the rest of his life. It's up to them too. Let's not forget there's another side to it too. It's not just the defense, it's also prosecution. Let's not forget them too. They have to present a solid amount of evidence, which they clearly already have, guys. So Shaka Johnson, in my personal opinion, is walking into a loss, in my personal opinion, okay? But let him represent who he wants to represent. Let Keon King get the proper representation that he constitutionally deserves as an American citizen, and let it play out. Because I'm telling you right now, the kid has already lost. They have enough evidence to bury this kid forever. But at the same time, if you feel compelled to sign the petition, by all means, go do your thing. But I don't think it's going to change much. He's already said, and we didn't see the whole interview, and I recommend you go check out the whole interview. But at the end of the interview, the reporters were asking him, hey, so what is your answer? Are you going to walk away from this case? And he said, N-O, which basically means no. He basically said, hell to the no, hell no, I'm not moving. So I guess that's what's going to go down, and that's how it's going to go down. I know it does not make everybody happy, but at the end of the day, I'd rather them make sure that they cross their T's and they dot their lowercase J's and they throw this kid in that prison, slam that prison cell doors right in his face without any hiccups and without any issues whatsoever. So let him be his representation. Because no matter what, justice is coming, and it's going to strike down hard on Keon King. Anyway, guys, that is the video. Comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Hit that like button down below. Crush that subscribe button. We'll talk here soon. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. This is The Pascal Show. Bye.
Pascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild.